My name is Gary Robertson, and we started a company called Vineyard2Door, and I guess it was about March of 2006. Actually came out as a result of a trip to the spring barrel release out in Prosser. Sat there and met with Patricia O'Brien over at Vineyard and started going over a lot of the compliance issues that were associated with trying to sell wine on the internet, and just started seeing what an absolute intricate nightmare it was. Then had some further conversations with some friends of mine like Jeff Gordon at Gordon Brothers, and started seeing the complexities associated with trying to sell wine on the internet. So we figured there must be a better way to come up with a model to be able to sell wine on the internet. And so it was Jeff's daughter, Katie Nelson, that came up with the idea of trying to tie in with the shopping cart. And so in March of 2007, we launched Vineyard2Door. And again, the whole concept was to tie right into the shopping carts with the various wineries. And after making a handful of presentations, it became obvious that we needed to go a little bit deeper. We had to come up with a point-of-sale system, because most wineries had as many as 7 different databases that they were operating, none of which spoke to each other. And so if they made one change in one, they had to make that same change 6 additional times. So if they had a newsletter, if they had their wine club, if they had their customer base, if they had their shipping database, again, as many as 7 different databases, and it just seemed absolutely ridiculous. We decided to come up with a system that tied it all into one singular database.
Now, from the customer point of view, someone going to Ash Hollow's winery to buy some wine, they're actually going to be buying the wine through your website, but it's much more of an experience, kind of like Amazon or some of the better
Well,
it's
unlike an Amazon, they are actually buying it directly from the winery, because we don't warehouse anything. So that order just simply comes through Vineyard2Door as a conduit. We do all the compliance checking, we do the sales tax piece, and we do all the shipping piece, and then we deliver the order to the winery. The winery is the one that runs the credit cards, the winery is the one that packs all the orders and ships all the orders. So the winery is the first line, they're the ones that are taking care of everything. So when a consumer goes to the site and orders the wine, they are buying it directly from the winery.
Now, part of the idea for this was you were looking at how much product was being sold over the internet versus the wine industry, which was pretty low versus other industries. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, there was an article that came out in the Seattle Times and talked about how most industries are now doing between 8 and 10% of their volume via the internet, and the wine was way less than 1%. And the answer is because this compliance thing was just such a nightmare for wineries that most of them weren't even really giving it a really good try. Most of them were putting a form online where you would fill out your form and fax it in, and then the winery would decide whether or not they could actually ship you the order or not. So the idea was to try to streamline this, make this a little more efficient for the consumer. So with the compliance check that we have on, if a consumer is placing an order from a state that is non-compliant, they're going to get a compliance kick message telling you that the winery can't ship to you for legal reasons. But the winery does gather the information, because they can either get a licensed account, there's a restaurant, there's a retailer, or they might have a distributor. And there should be a way to be able to get the consumer their product. But if they don't get that consumer's information, they have no way to be able to get a hold of them.
And it sounds like the nice thing is a winery that doesn't have an online solution can have one within a day or two through you. So.
Absolutely. All we do is we're going to tie right into their existing website, put on a shopping cart icon that directs them to their page on Vineyard2Door, which we can actually tailor to look exactly like their web page, so the consumer has no sense that they've transitioned from the winery's website to the Vineyard2Door website. Okay.
Talk about this other product you're working on to kind of track everything, essentially from the grapes all the way through out the door.
Absolutely. When it comes to the wine industry, you know, the POS system that we develop is an inventory management system. And with a winery, inventory doesn't start with that nice finished box. It actually starts when the grapes hit the back door. And if you have a vineyard, it actually starts when the grapes are hanging out there in the vine. So we have to put together a mechanism for tracking the inventory, for bioterrorism and traceability, for everything that happens for that grapes from the time that it's, growing, adding, any fertilizers, anything that happens. You have to do work on an irrigation system, way to capture all the costs, so that again, when the grapes are defined and delivered to the winery, you now have a complete record of everything that's happened to those grapes within that prescribed block or prescribed row, however you've set up in the system. And then from there, once it arrives in the back door, you can record that these grapes came from so-and-so grower, and record all the information, and then this information goes into, boom, that tank. It's a scan bar system. You scan into the system, get it all into your computer, and then just sync it into your computer, so now you have an electronic log of everything that's going on. This way, again, we can get away from the binder system that most wineries operate with.
And then how soon will that product be ready?
We're looking to launch that in January of next year, January 2009.
Okay. Where's your operation?
Located in Seattle. I personally am going to be moving into Walla Walla here later on this year. So I'll have a developer with me in Walla Walla, so we'll have the eastern part of the state covered, as well as I got a developer and another sales guy over in the eastern part or the western part of the state.
And then tell me a few of your customers.
Ash Howe and Ridinger currently are testing, the beta testing for all the point-of-sale system. They've done a phenomenal job for us. Paddock Creek, Menina Cellars, Brian Carter Cellars in Woodinville, Camaraderie over in Port Angeles, and Chelan Cellars. I got 7 wineries that are all on board with the point-of-sale system as of today. Should have about another 10 that are looking to see that everything gets completed and is actually working forward here for probably the next month and a half.
Okay.